Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:07 on a Friday morning. It's O'Connor and Company getting you through the week here and finishing things up on your work week, and then launched right into your incredible weekend here, the first weekend in May. And it's going to be cloudy and it's going to be rainy, but it's a weekend. So, it's a good one. It's 7:35. Rich Anderson, chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia, talk about early voting beginning right now. And then at 8:35, Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida will join us. He was over at GWU there for the campus protests, and he met Patrice with some racial epithets, which I don't think is a generally good idea when Byron Donalds is around.
He's a big guy.
I think his security staff sort of kept him.
Okay.
He would never, fly off the handle or anything.
He just needs to stand there, and then you feel the imposing presence.
You would think.
Of a man who could probably snap your neck like that.
You know who else could actually kill a man with his bare hands? Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. I've seen it happen before, and he joins us now. Congressman Johnson, thank you for joining us.
Morning, guys. Hope you're doing well.
Well, thank you. I'm kidding. You would never. Although if somebody insulted maybe the Green Bay Packers or something, you might get pretty angry at them. But other than that, thank you for joining us here because, first of all, you've been an absolute lion in the U.S. Senate. You are fighting all the right fights. And you have sort of, you're playing with house money. You don't care what people say or think about you. You just want to do the right thing. So in that context, what are your impressions of this idea that the Biden administration wants to fly Gazan refugees here to America? Egypt won't take them. Jordan won't take them, but we're going to fly them here.
Well, it's just one more example of the destructive ideology and policies of the Biden administration, the radical left, and the Democrat Party. I've said this repeatedly. If you were asked to develop a strategy to destroy this nation, you could not come up with a better strategy than what is being implemented right now by the Democrats and by Biden. Open borders, the massive deficit spending, which resulted in 40-year high inflation. The dollar's been devalued from $1 at the start of the Biden administration to now 83.8 cents. The war on fossil fuels, the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan, which emboldened our enemies. That's why they're on the move. So, this is just the latest outrage, quite honestly. So they open up our borders. We have 6-7 million people that flood into this country. We have no idea who they are. Venezuela's opening up its jails, its mental institutions, unbelievably violent gang members are in this country now, and we're going to feel the ramifications of that for years. So now they want to open up our borders to Palestinians who are taught the most vile things. The Arab nations around Israel, they won't take the Palestinian refugees. They're taught to obviously hate Jews, hate infidels. They hate us. Why would you let Palestinians in this country? This would be crazy. It is outrageous they're even considering it.
Well, and Senator, to your point, a recent poll found that 70% of Gazans view the Hamas October 7th attack as the correct decision. So to the point that we'd be literally flying terrorist sympathizers here makes no sense. Yeah. And you joined a number of your colleagues in sending a letter to the administration questioning whether this plan is actually in action or at least calling for a halt to it. But talk about the other aspect, which is have they even considered whether the U.S. People being held hostage by Hamas would be part of any sort of discussion around bringing Gazans to the United States?
What a quaint idea, Patrice.
Right?
No, I think the only thing they're considering is that they need to win Michigan.
Yeah.
And there are, Palestinian sympathizers in the Detroit area, and Michigan's going to be close, and they can't afford to lose any of those votes. So I guess they're happy to sacrifice the safety of America for votes. And that's what they're doing with an open border. There's no rational reason to open up our borders. The vast majority of Americans don't agree with that. They have a long-term game plan. You flood 6, 7, 8 million people in here that are going to be very appreciative of the fact that you let them into America. They will populate basically blue states. So whether they vote or not, they'll be counted in the census. Democrat states will get more members of Congress.
And
now we know that some of these NGOs are giving a slip of paper to the migrants before they get to America, saying, when you get to America, vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Now, these are NGOs that American taxpayers fund. I mean, we're funding our own demise through the Biden administration. So, again, Americans have to awaken to what Democrats, the radical left, the Biden administration is doing in this country. We need to reverse course quickly.
And Senator Johnson, you're so right to point out that this, when the next census comes in, let's say we bring all these refugees in, they're also, the Biden administration has admitted through this leak to CBS News that they're going to have them come in and live with people who are their relatives who are already here.
Yeah.
That means Michigan. That's where the vast majority of them are. It increases congressional representation. That also increases the weight in the Electoral College for that state. Can I ask you, though, Senator Johnson, I'm glad that you found 34 colleagues in the Senate to jump on board this and try to call a halt to it. Can you do more than send a letter? Is there any kind of intervention? Because I can imagine the president has the power to do this unilaterally, especially if Congress doesn't want it.
Well, the Supreme Court ruled in 2018 that the existing immigration law exudes deference to the executive branch, which means, first of all, President Biden has the authority to close the border. People don't quite get that. I mean, they're always talking about this awful bill. They call this bipartisan immigration bill. It was an awful bill that wasn't necessary. President Trump used existing presidential authority to close the border. Biden used the exact same authority to open it up, so he's got the authority. So, yes, he has the authority to do this. So it's only going to be public outrage that would deter him, which is one of the reasons we send a letter to awaken people. I appreciate you having me on. I hope your listeners spread the word.
Yeah.
Again, we need to make sure the American public understands what the radical left, the Democrat Party, is doing to this country. It is destroying it.
Well, Senator Johnson, is there any hope that there are some of your colleagues who have some common sense, who have, some appreciation for our sovereignty and our national security, who might be willing to work with you and your Republican colleagues on pushing back against the administration, saying, hey, this is a bad idea. You haven't even dealt with the hostages yet and the issues at the southern border. Will there be a way to work across the aisle on this?
So the best way to do this is anybody who is Democrat-leaning in this audience right now, get on the phone and talk to your Democrat House member or senator. That's what it will take. It will take public pressure being applied to Democrat members of Congress. Republicans are united. We want to secure the border. We're trying to push back on the Democrat Party. But again, most people in the mainstream media are advocates for the left, so they don't publicize this. I mean, this is kind of flying under the radar. Again, this is so outrageous. This isn't going to stay under the radar. This will become public. But again, people have to act, and the most effective action will come from Democrats calling up their Democrat representatives and saying, start screaming about this. This is outrageous.
Senator Johnson, as you know, Minority Leader McConnell is announced his retirement, but it won't be effective until after the election. What's the leadership race looking like? Are you still considering a run for some position in leadership in the Senate?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm trying to lead an effort for the Republican caucus in the Senate to establish a mission statement, lay out what principles will guide our actions, what our goals are. In other words, what do we stand for? What are we willing to fight for? Now, I've been there now. This is my 13th year under Leader McConnell's leadership, and we don't have anything like that, which led to the debacle of his secret negotiations with Chuck Schumer to basically get the Ukraine bill, a clean Ukraine bill. McConnell was not serious about securing the border.
Yeah.
So he negotiated in secret this awful bill that gave Democrats cover. And if you want proof of that, Schumer's quote after the negotiation said, well, we were playing chess, they were playing checkers, and we got the Ukraine bill. And even worse, he went on to say, and we are in a much better position on the border than we were 3 months ago. Now,
Wow.
Just think about that statement. If he actually wanted to secure the border, I would say they did nothing to secure the border. He wouldn't be saying they're in a better position on the border. All he wanted was political cover, and that's what McConnell gave him. So that's one of the reasons I think McConnell decided not to run again. I think even he realized what a debacle that is. And we need to establish a mission statement, principles. By the way, my one-sentence mission statement: to counter the ideology and policies of the radical left, that are destroying this country. I think that's what the Republicans in Congress, that ought to be our mission statement.
Well, what you're doing there, Senator Johnson, in terms of trying to get people to coalesce around some ideals and some values and some messages and put together a way forward to achieve that goal, that sounds like leadership to me. So I hope you're still considering being part of what could be a great new Republican majority after this election. We got to leave it there, though. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Senator.
Stay well.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
Patrice Onwuka is with us all morning long. I'm Larry O'Connor. Patrice, you're a mom.
I am.
You're
yes.
a mom. You seem really happy about that today.
When they're young, I really am.
All three of them
Yes.
are attending a school of some kind, right? All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. This is a test.
Okay.
Let's say your kids have to be at school at 7 in the morning.
Okay.
And you read a recent study that said that children need to get 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep each night.
Okay.
Would you, A, make sure that your kids have all their devices shut down and out of their room and in bed and sleeping at an appropriate early hour the night before so they get that 8.5 to 9.5 hours sleep for when they wake up to get to school at 7? Or would you talk to the local government elected officials and force them to move the start time of school back to accommodate the sleep schedule so your kids continue to stay up late, watch TV, and play on their devices?
Well, because I'm a responsible mom, I would choose A.
Yeah.
I would make them go to sleep earlier and sleep longer and take the device. They actually don't have devices in their room at night. So yeah, there's plenty in. It's called parenting.
You did the common sense thing.
Yeah,
That is not what's
parenting.
happening in Fairfax County right now.
Boy.
In Fairfax County, they are currently pushing back the start time to accommodate, and they're pointing at this study. Right now, the first bell is about 7:15. At most of the middle schools. They did this, by the way, for high schools. The circadian rhythms, don't you know? And so if they push back, and then we said you do this, and you're going to open it up to all the kids in all the schools, and they're just going to. And this is really about the teachers, by the way.
It is. They want to sleep in.
So Fairfax County Public Schools is now considering later start dates for middle school students, adding them to the high school students that already got this several years ago. They claim that right now kids have to wake up around 6 to make that first bell at 7:15. They say the later start times are going to give the students a boost in their performance. But again, the study they're all pointing at, the school board, we have to do this. Look at this study. The study doesn't say anything about how early you're supposed to wake up or how late you need to wake up.
Yeah.
It just says that you should get 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep. So keep the start times where they are and make sure the kids get to sleep earlier.
That means you're parenting.
Yeah. But,
So-
by the way, I just want to say, that means go to bed at 9 o'clock. That's not too much
That's
to ask.
not that late.
No, it's not. My kids were asleep at 8 o'clock when they were that age.
So I always question these studies and these research, this new research that people base policy changes after. Very often, these studies are very unique. They are very limited and small. So, yeah, you can probably find a study out there. I'm actually on Brookings' website just trying to see if there's a richer body of work. And there may be some positive effects for middle school students to start a little bit later. But again, it doesn't tell you when. And then you academic performance is important. And that's a kid-by-kid situation. You also can't neglect the other factors that go into school start times. Parents have to drop their kids off. They have to get their kids to school before they themselves are able to get to work. So when you start to fiddle with the start times for elementary school or for middle schools, then that means you're going to have an impact on the start times for elementary schools.
Absolutely.
And
that'll be next.
there are other factors, the busing, transportation. How do you ensure that all those middle schoolers are able to get to school on time if you're already dealing with transportation issues around the busing? You know what? You want your kids to sleep an extra hour? by all means, do it.
Yeah.
Send them to bed earlier.
Send them to bed earlier. Maybe we're biased because we wake up around 3:15, 3:30, but we function at a very high level, Patrice.
That's
every
fine.
morning. You
but
can do it.
We make the right decisions. Personal responsibility, folks.
Imagine if your kid, after high school, they end up deciding to be a car mechanic or a HVAC repairman. Maybe they join the military or something like that. I'm purposely leaving college out because I don't know if that's a good choice for them anymore.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. If you're raising your child to join the military, they're going to be a good, upstanding American, and they put on the uniform. They're going to be waking up real early.
Absolutely.
And you might want to get them into that habit going forward. All right, if you're in Fairfax County, you want to be a part of this conversation, there's a community forum Monday, May 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Whitman Middle School. And one other thing.
Yeah.
That means more cars and more school buses on the
That's
roads.
Right. More congestion.
All at the same time.
That's
More
right.
congestion.
Yep.
And it's going to affect a whole lot of other things as well. It is 7:23.
Making sense of your world.
Appreciate what you do.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
I completely agree with what you're saying.
Making sense of the news. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:36 now on O'Connor and Company as we charge through this Friday morning in your nation's capital to get you ready for your weekend. But you got to finish up the week strong and smart. And to that end, we've got some guests who will help us in that endeavor. Coming up at 8:35, one of the real great new congressman here. I guess he's in his second term now, so he's not that new. He's Congressman Byron Donalds, Republican of Florida. Look, you are grooving out, Patrice Onwuka.
I mean, Michael plays us this great music on a Friday.
You're
so
bopping your head. You're working the shoulders. You get the whole
elbows
thing.
too.
I will. I dance very well from the waist up as well, as long as my legs aren't involved.
Hey, same here.
You know who's a great dancer, though? I'm
Who's
talking
that?
like John Travolta level,
Ooh.
like a get on the floor and work it. Rich
Ooh.
Anderson. He's the chairman of the Republican Party in
would like to
Virginia
see that.
and a former professional dancer. Rich, thanks for joining us, sir.
Hey, great to be with you. We're in dance season right now, as of today.
We sure
All
are.
right.
Early voting in Virginia begins, and you want to make sure that Republicans get out there and participate in this primary process, frankly, so they can't complain about the candidates after the primary. You got to be part of it. Why is it so important that Republicans get in the habit of this early voting, Rich?
Well, it's important because it works. We used it very successfully last year, and I think that program that Governor Youngkin and the Republican Party of Virginia jointly fielded, it was called Secure Your Vote Virginia, did a great job turning Republicans out early. Let's just face it, as the Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears says, if the other side's been voting for 45 days and you've been voting for one day, namely on Election Day, game over. Yeah. So I think that significantly cut our losses to the point where the Democrats only have a bare one-seat margin in both the House and the Senate in a very competitive swing state. So there you go. I think it's proven, and this year the Republican National Committee has a very similar program that they have rolled out called Bank Your Vote, and that's underway right now.
Well, so talk to us a little bit about some of the different races that Virginia voters are going to be, Republican voters are going to be looking at.
Well, we of course have fielded candidates in every one of our 11 congressional districts. The ones that the vast majority only have one individual who has filed, mostly those districts where we have incumbents. And right now we have 3 of the 11 districts that have contests underway. We, of course, have the 5th Congressional District, which is Central Virginia, north of Richmond, and that's where Bob Good and John McGuire are vying for their nomination there. In the 7th Congressional District, which is like Richmond north, up just north of Richmond, and then up to the very southern end of Prince William County, we have 6 total candidates who are vying for that nomination. And then in the 10th Congressional District, we have 4 total candidates there. So the 5th, the 7th, and the 10th each are contested races.
And, Rich, there's always interest in Virginia 7, Virginia 10, because they're sort of right here in the D.C. neighborhood and
Sure.
Have historically been represented by Republicans, but in recent years have been represented by Democrats. But this year, Rich, they're both open seats. So how
Exactly.
hopeful are you for that for those seats this year?
I am very hopeful. We were hopeful 2 years ago. We wanted to take the second, which is Jen Kiggins down in Hampton Roads, and she was successful.
Yes.
We also wanted to get our nominees across the line in the 7th and the 10th. It didn't happen, but those happened in ways where Republicans significantly overperformed, Democrats underperformed, and in a year where there are huge damaging policy outcomes in Washington and Richmond, we think that puts the wind at the tails of these candidates in the 7th and 10th. Time will tell. And thankfully, 45 days from now, we'll have nominees in each district, and then we are into the general election phase of the campaign.
Well, speaking of general election, but just even getting there, U.S. Senate seat in Virginia, can you talk about, I mean, there's a lot of national attention being focused on it because this could potentially, be a great pickup for Republicans and potentially flip the Senate. So can you talk about the U.S. Senate race?
Certainly. We've got a crowded field for the United States Senate. The Democrats, of course, have won, but we have a crowded field of 5, and that really gratifies my heart. We had, I think it was either 9 or 10 actually in the race, and 5 qualified for the ballot. That would be Hung Cao and Jonathan Emord, Eddie Garcia, Scott Parkinson, and Chuck Smith. And so all are great candidates, and on June 18th, we'll know which one will be carrying the Republican colors. But this Republican Party of Virginia and Republicans across the Commonwealth will stand strong with our candidate. We will work our fingers to the bone to flip that seat to Republican control.
So Virginia Senate seat, Virginia 7 and 10, which incorporates some of the wealthiest counties or cities in America, and of course all in the backyard of Washington, D.C. Rich, this is going to be a very expensive election year in the Commonwealth of Virginia. How is the Republican Party poised here, especially with an incumbent and very popular Republican governor leading the charge? How are we poised to be able to raise enough money?
Well, Governor Youngkin has been fantastically successul in the fundraising department. He was last year in the state House and Senate races. He obviously was in 2021 in his own races. He is full-throated, ready to come out of the starting blocks in support of our eventual nominee. I believe that those national Republican entities will be strongly there with the necessary cash for our nominee. This is definitely within the realm of possibility. What I would do, I would say, hearken back to the Ed Gillespie race for the United States Senate in prior years and how he astounded Virginia and the country, coming so close to unseating Mark Warner. And so this has great potential to be the same. This is a very fluid environment right now because of the disaster in Washington, D.C.
But you know, Rich Anderson, the Republicans are real pleased with coming close over the last several years, but it's time now to bring it over the finish line. And I know it's going to be a very lively year, and you're going to be a big part of the conversation. Once again, just remind everybody about early voting and what they need to do to start this primary process now.
Right now, early voting works. In fact, I have my ballot laying on the car seat next to me right now, mine and my wife's, and I'm going to the post office right now.
There it is.
Very good.
All right, Rich. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate talking
Have
with
a
you as
great
always.
day.
You bet.
Thank
7:44. Well, more patriotic and inspiring moments on college campuses yesterday. Well, we told you, Patrice, about this story. The United frat boys, they call them the Fat Bros. The Fat Bros turned heroes at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. By the way, they shut off the GoFundMe.
Oh, wow.
That they were raising for a kegger for a rager, but they topped $500,000 in donations.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money
for these young men at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who kept the American flag from hitting the ground.
That's a blackout rager.
Stood there for an hour. Oh, it's going to be something else. How Donald Trump and the Trump campaign don't turn that into some kind of rally, or actually, you know what? They shouldn't turn it into a rally. Trump should just show up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He doesn't drink beer, but he could have his Diet Cokes while he's hanging out with the dudes.
Get Chris Rock, not Chris Rock.
Kid and Play.
Kid Rock.
Kid Rock.
Bring
Sorry.
Kid Rock.
And Play. Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Kid Rock should
Rock
play it.
perform.
Well, I
They
think
could
John
perform.
Rich has already volunteered to perform at their party.
Talk about it.
And
Yeah.
you don't need to make it a political rally. Just be who you are.
Yeah.
Love this country,
Red,
and the
white, and
rest will
blue.
take care of itself. right?
Awesome.
So that's the update on them. But now, here's the thing. What happens, especially in the SEC, they get very competitive, right? Although North Carolina Chapel Hill, I don't think, that's not SEC. They're an independent school. But, are they SEC? ACC, yeah. But, it's all sort of Southern schools. So at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, they call it, similar scene happened, right? And they took down the Palestinian flag, they put up the American flag, and then this happened. They all listen to that crowd. Listen to the cheers.
Just cheering.
I would argue that the pro-American, pro-Israel, anti-Hamas dirtbag protester crowd was bigger than the stupid encampment that they had set up there. And then actually one other thing happened after they sang the Star Spangled Banner. So there's that.
I love it. Well, you know what? We've seen counter protests, largely Jewish students.
Yeah.
You take down the American flag, and here go all of the other red-blooded Americans who stand with Jewish students, but maybe have been like, okay, we'll sit on the sidelines. But now you want to put the Palestinian flag on our pole?
Yeah.
No way.
The Great Awakening, right? The waking the sleeping giant. But meanwhile, in our town at George Washington University, we heard this. Listen to that cheering, right? That's the crowd of dirtbags cheering as they removed the American flag.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's a very different climate here. Meanwhile, thank God, finally, the Big Ten gets into it. University of Michigan. University of Michigan is a very liberal school, as typical. And also, by the way, we keep talking about Dearborn, Michigan, which is only, I think, about 30 miles away from Ann Arbor, the campus of University of Michigan. They, of course, have their own pro-Hamas protesters. A guy was caught on video throwing away the posters that the pro-Hamas people have put up in common areas, putting them in the trash, and he got confronted, and, well, it went like this.
You feel good about that?
Yeah, can I help you?
Can I help you? You just tore down that poster.
Oh, is it your property?
Why'd you tear down that poster?
Because you're supporting terrorists. So I hope you tell all your people you're supporting a U.S. designated terrorist organization.
Are you threatening me right now?
I am not threatening you. I'm simply saying the facts.
But you just tore down a poster?
Yeah, and I do them all again. You kill my people, you have no right to put this information on my school. Are you a student here?
Are you?
I am.
Great.
Yeah.
You want to give me your name?
No, I have no reason to.
But you feel entitled to tear down other people's posters?
Entitled.
I have no right to. This is public property. You have no right to camp on the middle of our
Didn't you
grounds.
just say it's public property?
It is.
Okay. So that sounds like a contradiction.
No.
Are you graduating?
Actually, by the way, oh my God, the ignorance of this woman. It's not a there's public property, but that doesn't give you the right to encamp on public property.
That's called trespassing.
That's correct.
That's not your business.
You come, you tear down
Is this going
posters.
on Al Jazeera or Safe Instagram or another one of your propaganda sites?
Why don't you tell me where you want it? Why don't you tell me where you want it? Where would you like this? Where do you want this posted?
I hope you put it everywhere because I hope all your people know you're supporting terrorists, you're supporting the genocide of Jews, you're supporting raping women, you're supporting killing babies and putting them in ovens, just like Hitler. I hope all of you know that. What you're doing is shameful. Shameful. So distribute that everywhere because you people deserve to know the facts that you're manipulated by some terrorists overseas.
Now, I don't know where she ended up distributing it, but it definitely went everywhere, and it's now here on Morning Talk Radio and WMAL, and good for that guy. Yes, it's true. Dearborn, Michigan has a very large Arab and Palestinian population. West Bloomfield and Bloomfield Hills and Birmingham and Novi and Livonia and other Michigan cities surrounding Ann Arbor, they have a very large Catholic community. They have a very large Jewish community. They have a very large Polish community. They have a very large Greek community. There's a very diverse group of people there in Michigan. And my hope is that as Biden continues to cater to the radicals in Rashida Tlaib's district, that the quiet majority are represented by that man right there.
That's right.
Who will show up on election day.
I hope they're loud on election day with their votes.
I hope they're organized. I hope they work at the polling places. I hope
That's
they're
right.
volunteering right now to be parts of the teams who will count the ballots and the mail-in ballots.
Absolutely.
With full transparency. I hope they're, as you are in Maryland, are you not?
PG County, yes, I am.
You'll be one of the election judges there.
Yes, I am.
That's what we need. It's not just about enough. It's not enough to vote. It's not enough to knock on doors. It's not even enough to contribute. Get involved in the election process and the ballot counting process. That's where we can make a difference.
Our presence there matters.
It's 7:54.